world, it's Keely and I'm back for another video. This is a brand new angle I'm just trying out. I got a just like $30 ring light tripod thingy off of Amazon to see if I can help with the lighting, especially today because it is very overcast and rainy in Pennsylvania, well, where I am in Pennsylvania, and I wanted to film this February book haul so that I can get it edited and ready to go while we're on vacation, because we're going to be gone for a little while and I wanted to be able to have a video come up. But I have a crap ton of books here to show you. I thought that I got 23 books in February, but I may have gotten 24, or I have a book in this pile that I've already talked about and I just can't remember doing that. We will see. I have it separated into fiction and nonfiction. Like I said, this is a book haul from the shortest month of the year, February, but I have the most amount of books so far, and that is 23 books. 24, something like that, over 20 books in this haul. Let's just go ahead and dive right in because there's a lot. The first one that I have is Just Mercy by Bryan Stevenson. This one is a nonfiction. We're going to start with nonfiction. All about his work. He is an attorney in the United States, and he founded the Equal Justice Initiative. That is a legal practice dedicated to defending the poor, the wrongly condemned, and those trapped in the furthest reaches of our criminal justice system. This is going to document his first case of Walter McMillian, who is a young man that was sentenced to die for a murder he didn't commit. The case drew Stevenson into a tangle of conspiracy, political machination, and legal brinksmanship, and transformed his understanding of mercy and justice forever. I've heard amazing things about this one. I think that he's done like podcast episodes. I feel like there was either like a documentary or TV show, movie, something about this as well. Just not one that I ever picked up, so I'm very excited to finally have a copy. Then I have been reading The 100 Years' War on Palestine, A History of Settler Colonialism and Resistance, 1917 to 2017 by Rashid Khalidi, and I have been really enjoying the process of reading this one. I haven't picked it up in a little while because, as you'll see, I've been reading a couple other nonfiction. This is one that I definitely want to get back to and learn more about the history of what's been going on with Palestine and Israel and all of that stuff, because it's not something that we are taught in the United States. So a couple of my friends have also been reading this one, and I'm getting a lot out of it, which is a good thing. So I'm glad this book exists. Then we can go over the book that I have completed, and that is Disability Visibility, edited by Alice Wong. This is first-person stories from the 21st century. So this is a collection of essays, all from writers that have various disabilities and intersectionalities, and it's really talking about a lot of topics that we don't talk about in the United States, and then a lot of stereotyping, abuses, horrific things that happen to people with disabilities in the United States. I think there was at least one that also talked about disabilities elsewhere, but I think it's primarily focused on the United States. There's one that covers Indigenous people and disabilities. There's one about there's one from someone who is deaf in the prison system in the United States, which was absolutely brutal. One where mental health is their disability. And so just a wide variety of disabilities are covered in this essay collection, and it was incredible, and I will definitely be reading more from Alice Wong. So that one I have completed. The one that I've been working on next is The Address book by Deirdre Mask. This is What Street Addresses Reveal About Identity, Race, Wealth, and Power. This one is all about the formation of addresses and where that comes from, the idea of like having a house number and having street names, and where different cities have like how they created that, who decided that that was going to happen. Very, very interesting. I am now finally in the section where she is talking about Philadelphia, which was why I picked this one up to begin with, because on the back it talks about Philadelphia. But this one is so fascinating so far. The first couple sections of this book covered different locations around the world, which the book will continue to do that. But it covers like London and the formation of London as a city with street names. It also talks about epidemiology and the benefits of street names. And now we're moving into the negatives of using street names and how the governments and police then use street names as a form of colonialism and tracking people. And it's very interesting to read about the rebellions that were happening when street names were really getting going. There's this one page where it's like the first paragraph is about the European response to people coming around and giving you a street name, and then putting like a number on your house, and how one of the rebellions there ended up in a murder of the person that was designated to put numbers on your house. And then it talks about the United States and how when it was happening during Civil War times, it was very much like the South were worried that the North was behind all of it, and it was like a big conspiracy theory. So it was just interesting how the rebellion in the European world, or in Europe, was murder, and the rebellion in the United States was, you know, just conspiracy theories, which it just kind of tracks in my head from how I have like categorized different uprisings over the years. Then the same friends that recommended that I pick up 100 Years War of Palestine also recommended Open Veins of Latin America, which is by Eduardo Galeano, 5 Centuries of the Pillage of a Continent, forward by Isabel Allende. This one is all about colonialism of Latin America, which I know absolutely nothing about. Very interested to dive into this one once I finish up some other ones and learn more about a part of the world that I have no knowledge of. Then we have Africa is Not a Country, Notes on a Bright Continent by Dipo Falian, and I am very, very excited for this one. I saw someone on Instagram reading this one when they were actually in Africa and talked about how incredible that experience was, so I'm very excited to get to this one. This one is really covering this concept that Africa is like a cohesive, one culture, just like, you know, if someone says the United States, you have an idea in your head, and then if someone says Africa, you have an idea in your head. But it is not that. It is way more diverse. There are, you know, entire ethnicities and groups and cultures and all kinds of stuff in Africa. And so this is really talking about the best parts of Africa, and also just making sure that, like, we stop thinking of it as just one, like, I can't think of the word that I'm trying to think of, but like one thing. Very eloquent, I know. One that's very similar to the address book is The Color of Law by Richard Rothstein. This is a forgotten history of how our government segregated America. So this is United States based, and it's really looking at how, I think it's going to be building off of the address book, where this is really talking about how we create cities and the formation of cities and neighborhoods in order to keep people segregated. I'm interested to read this one. I think this one's going to be really interesting to compare and contrast to the address book. And then I have the final 2 nonfiction, and these are both about Korea, and I am very, very excited for both of these. I have been very loosely joining a bunch of book clubs from Instagram and YouTube, and just kind of like getting the books but not really engaging with anyone, even though I'd like to, but I also feel like, I don't know, I feel like an outsider, like a weirdo, even though I don't do anything to fix that. So the first one is Flowers of Fire by Hwan Jung, and this one is the inside story of South Korea's feminist movement and what it means for women's rights worldwide. I've talked about it over the years, but part of my undergraduate degree was a minor in women and gender studies. However, going to a state school in small town Pennsylvania means that women and gender studies was white women gender studies, so I am very, very interested in continuing to supplement the knowledge that I got in college and social work school. Very excited about this one. And then the other one that has also popped up in that book club, and I will link it down below, it is an Instagram book club about Korean history, is Korea. A New History of South and North by Victor Cha and Ramon Pardo, and this one is not that long, so I'm super interested, and the font is really big. So this, I wonder if this is just going to be like a good jumping off point for learning about Korean history. I'm hoping that this one will just give me like a good base knowledge, and then hopefully, is there like a references section in the back? Let's see, there's an index, a bibliography, and notes. Okay, so no like further reading necessarily, but I will go through and, you know, I highlight the hell out of things, so I'll write all over this one and hopefully find some more books to continue with this knowledge. Okay, that is all of the nonfiction. Now let's move into the fiction. So I was waiting for one final book to show up, and it just did today. Similar to the book club where they're reading about Korean history, also was this book listed, the person that runs that group. And this is 3 Stories by Cho Yoon. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, and it is There a Petal Silently Falls. And so this is a collection of 3 stories, and let me read you what it says. It says, There a Petal Silently Falls presents 3 stories by contemporary Korean author Cho Yoon that explores historical trauma, military rule and repression, and the rise of consumerism. Elegantly crafted and quietly moving, Cho Yoon's stories are among the most incisive portrayals of the psychological and spiritual reality of post-World War II Korea. This one is super small, like super short, so I might actually take this one on vacation with me because it is so short, and this will be like an easy one to shove in my backpack when we go on the plane. So maybe I'll take this one. And one that I have completed is The Secret Lives of Church Ladies by Deesha Philyaw. This one was freaking incredible. This is a collection of short stories, and it explores the raw and tender places where Black women and girls dare to follow their true desires. There's 14-year-old Jael who nurses a crush on the preacher's wife, the mother who bakes a sublime peach cobbler every Monday for her date with the married pastor, and then Eula and Caroletta, single childhood friends who seek solace in each other's arms every New Year's Eve. So this is all about Black women love, and I freaking love the hell out of this one. This one was so good. I bought myself a physical copy instead of getting it at the library because I had a feeling that I was absolutely going to love it, and I did. Then we have the 5th book in the Fortuna Sworn series by KJ Sutton, which is an indie published series. This is a romantasy with fairies and elves and nightmares and all kinds of creatures. I can't tell you a ton about what book 5 is about, but the story starts in book 1, Fortuna Sworn, where Fortuna, the main character, she is a nightmare, so she can control people through their fears, and she is living in a small town working at a diner and trying to figure out what happened to her brother who went missing. And then one day an elf shows up and says, hey, I know what happened to your brother, and kind of drags her along with him into the kind of, it's like the underground, but it's the elf world. I forget what it's called. But he takes her there, and then you just learn a ton about the political parts of that world and how it coexists successfully and sometimes not so successfully with humans. Freaking loved it. Very, very excited to get to this one because I have read the other 4 books and I have them all on my shelf. So now they all match, which is very nice. I have no idea how many books are going to be in this series, but I'm excited to get this one. Then one that I do want to start soon, but I mean, I want to start all of my books soon, is The Name of the Rose by Umberto Eco, which I have heard of so much over the years, but had no idea what it's about. And it sounds like it's going to be right up my alley. So this one is like a murder mystery, but it takes place in a monastery in like the 13 or 1400s, and I think it's like following a monk that is trying to solve a murder. For my work book club, it's called We're Booked, and it's a book club that I created at work so that we can, even though we're remote, try to still talk about books because books are my life. So I would very much enjoy that process, and have been. I started it last year. Every 2 months we switch between a fiction and a nonfiction. So we started off the year with nonfiction. Now for the next 2 months we'll be reading fiction, and one of those that we'll be reading is Beloved by Toni Morrison, which I have never read. I've never read any of Toni Morrison's work, so I'm very excited to get to this one. This one is a spellbinding novel transforming history into a story as powerful as Exodus and as intimate as a lullaby. You're following, is it Seth? The protagonist was born a slave and escaped to Ohio, but 18 years later she is still not free. She has too many memories of Sweet Home, the beautiful farm where so many hideous things happened. Her new home is haunted by the ghost of her baby who died nameless and whose tombstone is engraved with a single word: beloved. So I know this one is going to be a brutal, heart-wrenching story, but I am also very, very excited for it. And because I love weird fiction, I got this one, Organ Meats by K. Ming Chang, and I also have Bestiary by this author, which I started but never finished. This one is a weird novel, and says 2 girls are bound by red string and canine heritage in this vivid tale about female companionship and loyalty. Best friends Anita and Rainey find refuge by an old sycamore tree with its neighboring lot of stray dogs who have a mysterious ability to communicate with humans. The girls learn that they have been preceded by generations of dog-headed women and women-headed dogs whose bloodlines bind them together. It sounds wild. I'm so excited for it. Then we have The Leavers by Lisa Ko. This one is a National Book Award finalist. It won the PEN Bellwether Prize for Fiction, and this one is all about Deming Guo, Guo's mother, Polly, an undocumented Chinese immigrant who goes to her job at a nail salon and then never comes home. No one has any idea what happened to her. 11-year-old Deming is then left to be adopted by a well-meaning white couple who then rename him Daniel. And so you're following the perspectives of both Deming and his mother, Polly, and it sounds like it's going to be very, very interesting. I'm super excited for this one. Next, we have Sorrowland by River Solomon. I did read a book by this author before. I was about to look for my phone to look up what that book was, and then remembered that I'm recording on my phone, so I can't do that. I will insert a picture here of the previous book that I read from this author that I freaking loved. This one is about Vern, who is 7 months pregnant and desperate to escape the strict religious compound where she was raised, flees for shelter in the woods. She gives birth to twins and plans to raise them far from the influence of the outside world, but she is a hunted woman forced to fight back against the community that refuses to let her go, unleashes incredible brutality far beyond what a person should be capable of, her body racked by inexplicable and uncanny changes. So I don't know if this one is supposed to be fantasy or more magical realism, but but I absolutely loved the other book that I read by this author that I still need to get a physical copy of because I read it from my library, but very much looking forward to this one. And we have one that I started and I read the first two stories and haven't picked it back up, but I need to, and that is How Long Till Black Future Month by N.K. Jemisin. Freaking love N.K. Jemisin. I've read the Broken Earth trilogy. I've read Far Sector. I've read a couple other short stories by this author, and I have 3 other books, I think. At least 2, if not 3 other books by N.K. Jemisin, so I really need to just continue on with their work because they're so good. So this one is a collection of short stories, all Afrofuturism stories, and I am loving it so far. I just have been very distracted by everything else and haven't picked it back up. Then I have the first in a young adult fantasy series. This one is Children of Blood and Bone by Tomi Adeyemi, which I have seen all over BookTube for the last couple of years. When it first came out, I did try reading it and got distracted and put it down and never picked it back up. Now I believe there are 3 books. Very excited to have a physical, beautiful copy of this one that I got from Barnes & Noble. Just super excited to get to it. This one is about Zélie Adebola, who remembers when the soil of Orisha hummed with magic. Burners ignited flames, tiders beckoned waves, and Zélie's Reaper mother summoned forth souls, but everything changed once magic disappeared. Under the orders of a ruthless king, the Magi were targeted and killed, leaving Zélie without a mother and her people without hope. She has the power to bring back magic, and it just sounds like it's going to be incredible. Speaking of magic, I have Nobody's Magic by Destiny O. Birdsong, which is a story about 3 different Black women with albinism living in the South and their lives intersecting. Author also has albinism, so its own voices. Very excited to get to this one, hoping to pick it up soon. Then we have the 10,000 Doors of January by Alex E. Harrow, which is one of the Alex E. Harrow that I have not read yet. I've read a handful of her work, freaking love her as an author, so very excited that I found this one. This one is all about January scholar who feels different from the artifacts that decorate Mr. Locke's sprawling mansion. She is largely ignored and out of place, but when she finds a strange book, one that tells of secret doors, love, adventure, and danger, for the first time, January realizes she can escape her story and sneak into someone else's. Sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun. 3 more. So we have The Water Dancer by Ta-Nehisi Coates. I have read a book by Ta-Nehisi Coates before. I will insert it right here because I cannot remember what it's called. I want to call it Between the Buried and Me, but that is a metal band. That is not what the book is called, but it's something like that. It's that format of title. But this one is about young Hiram Walker, who was born into bondage. When his mother was sold away, he lost all memory of her, but was gifted with a mysterious power. Years later, when Hiram almost drowns in a river, the same power saves his life. His near death begins a daring journey of escape that takes him from the corrupt grandeur of Virginia's proud plantations to desperate guerrilla cells in the wilderness, from the coffin of the Deep South to daring utopian movements in the North. Even as he's enlisted in the underground war between slaves and the enslaved, Hiram's resolve to reunite with the only family he's ever known burns within him. Again, I don't know if this one is supposed to be fantasy or magical realism or both, but very, very excited to read more from this author. And I have Delicious Monsters by Lizelle Sambury, which is all about Daisy, who sees dead people, something impossible to forget in bustling ghost-packed Toronto. She usually manages to deal with her unwanted ability, but she's completely unprepared to be dumped by her boyfriend. So when her mother inherits a secluded mansion in northern Ontario where she spent her childhood summers, Daisy jumps at the chance to escape, but the house is nothing like Daisy expects, and she begins to realize that her experience with the supernatural might be no match for her mother's secrets. So excited for this. I freaking love that setup of stories of where like something traumatic happens and they have to move to this huge house and the house is weird. And then the final book that I have is Death Stranding. This is based on production by Hideo Kojima, novelized by Hattori Nojima, and translated by Carly Radford. This is book 1, and it's just a novelization of the video game, and my husband played the video game and freaking loved it. I read the first 30 pages, you can see my bookmark, and then put it down to read a bunch of nonfiction instead, but I would really love to get back to this one. Those are all of the books that I have for February, not including any of the books from the library. There's a short stack right here and then a bunch downstairs I have to return before we leave, not including all of the ebooks that I've also been getting on sale. The main ebook that I'm reading right now is I Want to Die But I Want to Eat Tteokbokki. I will insert a picture of the cover here because I cannot remember who wrote it. I think it was translated by Anton Hur. That is everything that I have for now. I haven't purchased any books so far in March, which is good because I'm now running a backlog of books that I purchased in the first 2 months of the year that I want to get read. Let me know if you've read any of these and what you thought of them, if you want to buddy read any of them, and that's it. Thanks for watching. Bye.